What you gonna do? What you gonna do? Hallelujah. So, update. So the engine is fine, right? The engine is fine, but there's opponents around the engine that we're gonna look at. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna remove the air filter. I'm gonna remove the air filter and the intake so we can get a clear look at the carburetor. Now, why do I say that? Why do I want to look at the carburetor? It's a 2-barrel, I think it's a 3.5 TE. I'll correct that. So it's a 2-barrel carburetor. So the issue is the cold start. I have a rough cold start, and you saw the last video I had a rough idle. And I'm pretty sure the rough idle and the cold start is due to the choke and vacuum leak. But we're gonna take a look at the choke, and what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna start the car. So starting the carburetor, well, let's get into it. So we're gonna pop the hood. Light right, I'll unplug that light right there. It's so annoying, and I think it drains the battery. It's just, I don't know, it's useless to me, I don't know. So, I mean, you have so many other sources that you can get light from, and it's gonna, anyway, whatever. So I digress. So let's talk about the carburetor. So I'm gonna remove this intake and the air filter so we get a better visual. I got a little step stool because the truck is a bit high. So let's remove this. Okay. Put it in a pocket so I won't lose it. Let's take this out. Let's lay it over here. Okay, let's take the air filter out of here. Oops. And let's remove the intake. We'll lay it right here. So now the carburetor is exposed. So in carburetor engines, cold start issues. This is the model number of the carburetor, the maker. Motorcraft. And what is that? I think I said earlier. I might have said it wrong. Anyway, so that's the choke right there. Hold on. Let me get in a little closer. So that's the choke right there. So, it's not bad. So, when I talked about earlier, starting a carburetor engine, you get in the car, you turn the car on, not the engine on, you just turn the car on. Then you pump the gas, let's say 3 times. So when I tap this 3 times, 1, 2, 3, it's gonna squirt into the carburetor. It's gonna inject fuel in there. As you can see, the choke does not close, giving it a lean fuel-air mixture, causing the engine to stall. Now, let's by hand close the choke and see what happens. As you can see, the car starts right up and idles fine with the choke held down, the choke partially closed. Because on a cold start, you need a rich mix. Rich meaning by a lot more fuel than air. that's for a cold start. So you're going to need a lot more fuel than air. So injecting fuel in the carburetor and closing the carburetor compresses it. So it's letting less air in and it's creating more suction, sucking more fuel from the fuel stations, right? From the fuel stations. So it's just going to be a rich mix when this closes. So the problem, as you can see, is it doesn't close. The choke does not close when I do a cold start, which is letting more air and fuel in, which causes the bad cold start. I have to rev the engine up, warm up the engine, and then it idles normal. From there, once the engine is warm, you're good. Again, the engine is good. I just like how this Ford looks in black, in the what you call it, the valve covers. Looks cool. So I called Holly. I think something is up with the carburetor, right? But it's not with the carburetor, it's with the choke. I called Holly, explaining what model I have. They told me to call Daytona Parts. It'll be better to do a carburetor rebuild. But I'm looking for parts that's attached to the choke. That's gonna, the choke, because it's a choke issue. That's why I have to rev the engine up. So all parts attached to the choke, or I just have to I loosen it up. Maybe it's so tight. That's why the choke just stays open. I can rev the engine up. The choke just stays open, doesn't move, or maybe doesn't move much. Maybe you guys can give me advice. I'm not a carburetor expert, clearly. Maybe I can loosen this up and the choke will close on a cold start. Or I can call Daytona Parts, order some parts, all parts related to the choke, replace those parts, and then pretty much go from there. Also, the vacuum lines, there's a lot of wiring here. You know, the engine is a big vacuum, except the exhaust is the opposite, right? But everything else, these wires are, look at them. So yeah, just because you got a new engine, there's a lot of other parts that need to be attended to. So I could get some of the vacuum lines replaced. I'll have a smoother idle. You know, parts that complement the engine. You know, the engine can't do everything, right? It can't start the vehicle. It's gonna run, and it runs really well. But that's something I got to work on. Something I got to work on. But again, also, I noticed a leak. I'm going to have to replace the heater core. It's in there. It's kind of like a small, it's like a small radiator. It's leaking coolant. It has a leak in it. It's kind of like a small radiator inside here, so you got to like remove the whole front dash to get to it. And you can see where that pipe leads. I don't know if I'm gonna put this in the video. Boom, you see that leak right there? Right into the intake? That concerns me, so that's got to get taken care of too. But let's stick to the carburetor. So again, you get in the car, you turn the car on, you pat the gas pedal 3 times, it's gonna squirt fuel in here. And what should happen, the choke should close, giving you a rich air-fuel mixture, because once it does that, that rich air-fuel mixture goes into the cylinder with the pistons, and you know, that's when the magic happens, the boom. But as long as it's a rich fuel mixture. The problem is I'm getting a dominant air fuel mixture, so I get a rough cold start. Well, revving the engine up to warm it up. Anybody can give any advice though, but I think the best way to go is replace all parts. First, try to loosen it up, see if I can just do some tuning, some adjusting, then just replace all parts affiliated with the choke. I don't know. We'll see what happens. We'll see.